Wanna know how Sama's jump scare went from this to this? Well, I will go over every chapter 2 monster going through their design, jump scare, etc. Sit back and relax. I hope you enjoy the video. First up we have the long neck lady, or as many of you know as, Megumi. Megumi is a 6 to 7 foot monster with chest length wavy black hair, exposed popped out veins on both of her gray arms and legs with a long white piece dress. Also she appears to have a white mask with a mutilated mouth that is in the shape of a demonic smile. The mask has black tears or blood dripping down from her eyes all the way to her bottom lip. Her most unappealing feature is her extremely long neck, which she has the ability to stretch it to long unusual lengths, with some people describing her neck as it was a giraffe's neck. This is what her very first jump scare looked like. I'm sorry for the fast-paced clips, it's not mine, but anyways, this was when McDitch was a solo developer. As we can see, Megumi had her head tilting slightly to the right, completely white pale eye sockets with black liquid rushing down to her bottom lip, a demonic smile, a big long forehead with hair at the back, and finally no jump scare animation. Anyways, this is what Megumi's second jump scare was like. We can see that she violently shakes her head upon killing the player with a proper jump scare animation. Now, her facial features were exactly the same, which included a smile, pale white eye sockets, a big forehead and black liquid drooling from both her eyes. Next up we have Megumi's third jump scare, Revamp. Everything was exactly the same as the previous jump scare. The only difference you will notice quickly is her jump scare sound. This sound came from a well-known horror game called Granny. The jump scare sound was slowed to suit the jump scare environment, I think. Now, we have another remodel for Megumi. When Mc hired new developers for his game, in this brand new design it was released around October, I'm guessing, since the Mimic Wiki named this Megumi Puppet Halloween. Megumi still had her white one-piece dress, veiny gray arms and legs. The only difference was her more curly black hair and her facial structure. She still has a big forehead, black sunken in eye sockets, dried liquid from her eyes and mouth, a more realistic large nose sticking out, and finally her sunken in black empty mouth. But now, I'll present you her jump scare. We can see that Megumi moves her head from right to left upon going in contact with the player. Her facial structure was different to her old, her nose appeared a bit too big in the jump scare, and finally the jump scare sound is still exactly the same as the previous two. Finally we have her proper revamp. This revamp consisted of every monster getting a new design, look, jump scare, and jump scare sound. For Megumi, she is an extremely tall woman with shoulder-length black wavy hair, gray/palish skin. Her pale face consisted of a wide open mouth completely dark on the inside, hollow eyes with liquid dripping out of her eyes and mouth, and these are her final two jump scares, or hopefully. For a split second we can see Megumi frozen with her mouth wide open, most likely a T-pose glitch. For her actual jump scare she can be seen opening her eyes wide, and the lights were flickering at the time of this jump scare. Also to point out, her jump scare had been used for Hiachi's old jump scare. Anyways, this is her second jump scare. Her face was pretty dark when I took this video. Everything was the same. The only difference was that on the sides there were Japanese letters which I do not recognize. If one of you guys can read it, please let me know down in the comments. Anyways, her final difference is the removal of the black background. It's now completely removed. Now, we have a new monster to talk about their evolution, from when they first appeared, their jump scare sounds. This monster, also known as a fallen samurai, is called none other than Kusonoki. In his human form, He appeared to have wearing a white kimono shirt, a crimson haori. He also wore a sendogasa, a traditional Japanese hat, and finally he can be seen wielding an offuda in his right hand and holding two katanas with his left hand. In the early stages of the mimic he was a really large samurai with 6 great arms, a skull for his head with glowing white eyes, and he is wearing long sleeves and long hakama pants. For his jump scares, they were all exactly the same as Megumi's jump scare, since I'm pretty sure the developers didn't know how to separate the jump scares between 2 monsters within the same part, but eventually, like a year later, he got his very own jump scare. Kusonoki now still appears to be a large samurai wearing a black sandogasa, along with a long red scarf wrapped around his entire neck, and what appears to be a black nagagi. He wields a very large katana, and has a saya holstered on his back. His head consisted of a dark black skull, his pupil glowing in a very dim bright light, and the rest of his body appears to be black as well. Now this is his revamp jump scare. We can clearly see that Kusunoki wields his katana with 2 of his hands to stab his fellow great-grandson, Yasu. We can see when the stabbing animation occurred we heard a loud stabbing noise coming from his katana, followed by his groan, hum, or whatever. For the next monster, we have a small child called Hirosamashij, or many people know as Shaku. When Chapter 2 just came out, Shaku appeared around 6 feet tall. She can be seen with a large chubby face, dark red lipstick on her lips, a light pink rouge on her 2 cheeks, 2 very hollow dark eye sockets and black hair. She can also be seen wearing a large white dress similar to hiachi with maybe a red belt around her waist, and I assume a long strap around her collar to her waist. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, this is her very first jump scare. We can see that she is holding her left hand strangling Yasu, with her head violently shaking from right to left in a dim light jump scare box. Also, her jump scare sound was not probably made by Mukdich, even though he uploaded the sound audio to Roblox. He usually borrows them from video games and alters the sound of it. An example of this is Sama's jump scare. The original sounded like this. The audio sounded slower, but in game it sounded like this. The in-game audio was more high-pitched. Anyways, this is her second jump scare. I can hardly notice anything different with the jump scare compared to the previous one. The only difference I could maybe point out is that it's just a bit paler. Now, for one of her revamp designs we got a shaku that had a round chubby face, pure white skin tone with visible cracks on her arms/face, a hollow pair of eyes with dark black mucus coming out, which I assume is her tears. She has smooth dark hair with her bangs covering her forehead, a very bright red lipstick and a hardly noticeable nose. For her jump scare this is what we got. The main difference we got compared to the 2 previous jump scares is none other than her face. It's way more round and she has black cracks on her face similar to marbles, and there appears to be a light source as well shining on her face. Anyways, this is her second jump scare. Her pale arms were both visible, with her left arm being at the bottom and the right being at the top of her head. As soon as I die, Shaku also tilts her head quickly from left to the middle. For her next jump scare, this is what the developers gave us. Ooh. Yeah, it's a frozen Shaku with hiachi's jump scare mixed with Shaku's jump scare together. I don't know why her jump scare was like this other than me recording this when the jump scares just came out, so it looks buggy. Now, I'll present you what the fans called Shake Abomination. She has an extremely bloated body, that's very similar to a frog's body. The only thing that is kept the same is her facial structure. I'll show you her jump scare to not waste any time. Her arms were way more visible since she had two of her hands around her head when she tilts her head. That's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, a like and subscribing would be a lot.